I have the opportunity to introduce Karen A. from Baltimore. I'll just tell you briefly, I got to meet her and her husband at the airport when they flew in and drive them down to Ocean Shores. And I got to know Karen, and she was my road dog for a couple of days, and we just thoroughly enjoyed ourselves. And I want to introduce her. I know she's going to be awesome. Here's Karen A. from Baltimore.
I'm an addict. My name's Karen. And I'm so honored and privileged to have the opportunity to have been a member of Narcotics Anonymous for all this time, and to be able to stand here in front of you beautiful women. I'm here to share my experience, my strengths, and my hopes. We clean up nice, right? They told me that I could be like a beach bum here. I've never seen a place where it rains and you can't even buy an umbrella, right? Because I really tried. And I want to let you know I love you. I don't care what you do. I don't care what or how much you used. I love you. And I'm here to let you know that I'm from the Baltimore area, Narcotics Anonymous. My clean date's December 23rd, 1990. I have one clean date. I have one God. I have one home group. I have one sponsor. And I have one man. And I'm going to keep it that way. You know, I was a street girl, so I'm a little rough sometimes. I try not to be. I'm passionate about Narcotics Anonymous. I would have never, ever thought that I would never use again. So if you're new, I'm here to tell you that you never, ever in your life again, ever have to use again. And I'm here to let you know our message is hope. And our promise is freedom from active addiction. And I got clean. Let me just say this. Let me just share a minute. I know we don't focus on war stories. But I want to share that I was like this bright genius by paper. And my father was a Baltimore City homicide detective. And I embarrassed him dearly. And my mother was a housewife. And we had like this nice little life going on as I knew it. And my father retired from the police department. And him and my mom, we didn't know they were addicts. And him and my mom bought a nightclub. And they left me and my sister. But before they left us all the way, and my sister's 13 months older than me, they took us from place to place to place, would drop us off and say they were coming back to get us. And the last stop that they dropped us was at my grandmother's and my step-grandfather. My step-grandfather was a prisoner camp guard from World War II, and I became his next victim. And I was tortured. I was like, like back in the day. See, I got clean in my 20s. Like I was cutie on duty,
And
right?
now I'm like,
and because we clean up nice, right? And 55. I don't look it though, do I? But I'm going to be 56, so that means I'm going to be closer to 60, right? And I've spent my life for you in Narcotics Anonymous. You're the most important thing to me ever. And I was back to being tortured, and I was raped every night. And I was tied up. And I had to sleep with my grandfather. And my sister slept with my grandmother. And I was tied up, and I was beaten, and I was tortured, and I was raped, and I was told when to go to bed. I was told when to get up. And when I would get up, I was told when I could go downstairs, and I would go downstairs, and I would run to the front door, and I would be like crying, like I just want my mom. Like, why did they leave me? And I would get beaten for crying, and I would be punished. And then I'd have to be told when to go to bed. And I would be tortured and tied up and raped and gagged with filthy, dirty socks. And I learned how to emotionally check out. I stared at a wall so I wouldn't feel. Then I escaped. And if it was back in the day was now the times and now, I could have been on one of them Oprah Winfrey shows as a survivor. So when I see that on TV, it's like I get it. And I could once in a while my mom and dad would come pick us up and I guess, I don't know, give us a break, or they wanted to see us, and I would hide in the closet, and I would scream, I don't want to go there. And my mom could not hear what I was not saying. And it has been one of the biggest blessings I have gotten, because I can hear what you're not saying. So needless to say, I was 8 when I started using, and my sister was 9. Something was wrong. And my poor sister laid in that room knowing what was going on with me and what my grandfather was doing to me. And I always thought in my mind, I know she's got to know. Why don't she save me? She has 30 years clean. I have 26 years clean in a row. And we had the opportunity for her to tell me she's so sorry she couldn't save me. That she laid there and knew the torture that was happening to her little sister. And it was painful. And I started shooting dope at 13, and I shot dope till I got clean in Narcotics Anonymous. I was 29 years old. And our literature says you can cold turkey it, or you can go to a detox. But you must have. Listen, the literature, this is the literature. I fit the literature. It was written by addicts for addicts. We must have total abstinence in order to recover. So I came from the day when you detox with the brown paper bag. And we didn't even have Motrins. So there, we didn't have cell phones or even pagers. We didn't have call waiting. People would give us quarters to make a phone call out of the phone booth. Our program never changes. Because just as, I'm clean here today with none of that, and you're clean here today with all of that, the program stays the same. So I detoxed in the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, and it was painful. And I didn't know I was going to get clean. I didn't know I was going to stay clean. I just knew I couldn't sleep in the park one more day. We have a park in Baltimore, in East Baltimore. It's called Patterson Park. And if you're a drug addict, it's called Jurassic Park. Terrific. It's things I would never stand up here and share with you. And I was in a gang. And I still have the tattoo. Not because I want it, but I'm too afraid to get it taken off because I was very, very high when I got it. So it can stay there. Right? I can't tell you how grateful I am to be a member of Narcotics Anonymous. And if you're not grateful and you haven't joined us yet, if you do, we want you here. And if you're here and you're not sure if you're going to be a member or stay a member, one day my hope for you is that you become so grateful that you became a member of Narcotics Anonymous that you'll stay here as long as I've stayed here to help the people that God has put in front of me to help. So they gave me a brown paper bag. The front row in Baltimore is called the Critical Care Unit. Yeah. And as bad as I was on the street, when I came into Narcotics Anonymous, I did what you told me to do. And they knew if you were detoxing, you couldn't sit down. So I was in the back of the room, and I was desperate. And I was screaming to the top of my lungs, I just want to use. Can somebody help me? I can't do this. I just want to use. And everybody would tell me to keep coming back and don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle happens. My body was so messed up I didn't sleep one whole night for 2 years. And one day, I came to and I didn't want to use. The obsession to use was lifted. As our literature says, the obsession to use will be lifted. It'll come earlier for some than others. So what I'm here to tell you is don't give up 5 minutes before the miracle happens. You can detox. You can detox if you can't get to a treatment or wherever you go. And I detoxed, and I vomited in here, and I smelled, because we didn't always look so good. So if you're new and you're sitting next to somebody and they look good and smell good, and we didn't always look and smell this way. You got to know that. You got to know the only difference between me and you is I got here before you. Everybody has the same equal opportunity to recover. So I got a sponsor, and I need to tell you I was very embarrassed because I couldn't read or write. So I went from a genius on paper. They wanted to send me to the MIT Institute when I was in 3rd grade, to coming into Narcotics Anonymous and not being able to even read a piece of literature. So what I did was I let somebody know I couldn't read. So one thing I'm real adamant about is that if you've been here, don't assume everybody can read, and don't assume that everybody's joined Narcotics Anonymous, because people will say, why would you be in Narcotics Anonymous and you ain't got a sponsor and you ain't working the 12 steps and like you never even asked us if we joined or not. Like you just want to take the shotgun, you know, and like a lot of people don't even want to be here. Not everybody that comes here gets the message. So it's our responsibility. It's our responsibility to know and ask if somebody joined us yet. It's our responsibility, instead of taking them to the literature, ask them if they can read first so they're not so embarrassed. It's things that we're so self-absorbed we can't think outside of ourselves. Then I got a sponsor. I started working the steps. And my sponsor and this great guy from Narcotics Anonymous in the Baltimore area, Dennis D., taught me how to reread again. Today I can read, I can write. I'm excited about it. I'm excited I can look in a dictionary. I'm excited that like on this day I have some restoration. So I started working the steps, and I thought it said powerless over drugs. I didn't know it said powerless over our addiction. The obsession for me to use was lifted, and I thought I got our one promise, freedom from active addiction. I'm here to tell you I lived in active addiction clean for 10 years. And when the disease of addiction is active, we open the door for a destructive, violent power greater than us. The disease of addiction is on every corner. It's sitting on the floor. It'll share from the floor. It'll send you a text message. It'll send you a voicemail, an email, a Facebook. Because people don't understand that the disease of addiction wants us dead, but my disease ain't no different than yours. We suffer with the same disease. And in our literature, we didn't have step guides or anything like that, and our sponsors would handwrite our steps for us. And we would answer the questions. And I didn't understand any of it. I was so excited that I thought I had freedom from active addiction. I could not believe I wasn't using. On December, I wanted more evidence all the time though, but what I realized was that on December 22nd, 1990, I was shooting dope and doing B&Es. On December 23rd, 1990, I never did another B&E and never used again. There's something that says something for Narcotics Anonymous. So I worked all 12 steps and became a 12-step member. And I let you know that. But I worked it in theory. I hated God. Hated God. Because like in Baltimore, right? Like people, like the person sharing, right, Cynthia? The person sharing would say, God is good. And everybody on the floor says what? All the time. And I would cringe. Because if God was so good, why would he let a bright, pretty little girl be tortured to my almost death at 8 years old? And I couldn't get past that God is good. Something greater than me
I
that
couldn't
got me
see
here, that on December 22nd I was using, and on the 27th, December 23rd I wasn't. I couldn't get past the fact that I was so tortured. So therefore I couldn't have any good relationships. I lived in the past. And don't get me wrong, I was so excited about Narcotics Anonymous. It's like an addict, any addict can stop using drugs, lose the desire to use, and find a new way to live. And I'm running around like I got this new way to live, and I'm carrying around this old way of life with me. Relationship after relationship. Lie after lie. Stealing after stealing, and cheating after cheating, and gambling after gambling. I needed something, like I didn't have nothing in me and I was feeling everything. I hated myself. And the worst part of it is I hated God, which has become my greatest source of strength. So I'm here to tell you, if you're an atheist, don't let, and it talks about it in our literature, don't let nobody run you out of here. And then in our literature, it talks about agnostic. There might be a God, but I don't care. Don't let anyone run you out of here. Nobody. And if you believe in the second tradition, there's but one ultimate authority, don't let anyone run you out of here. There's enough room for all of us. And I was not using, and everything that I did using, I was doing clean. Because, see, I lost my soul. I mean, my soul was taken. And I wanted it back, and I searched in all the wrong places to get it. Here in Narcotics Anonymous. I always knew how to get into a relationship. I always knew how to get what I wanted. If I got in a relationship, I didn't know how to get out of it. I mean, I didn't know that, I really didn't like you. I didn't know that. I was like, they look good. I'm in Narcotics Anonymous. 6 months clean with all this clean time. And I want them. And I broke a lot of hearts. And I don't say that with any ego at all. I can't tell you how many times somebody asked me to be married in Narcotics Anonymous, and I cut them off. Because there's one vow that I took when I was living on the street, and that was that nobody would ever hurt me the way I was hurt and tortured by the most torturous man I had ever met in my life. So I didn't know how to deal with you. I could only let you so close. I would love you and not love you, and love him and not love him, and love them and not love them. I wouldn't call them back. It was done. So my 8-step list, my first 8-step list. And when I'm telling you my first 8-step list, right, that means I had more than one 8-step list, which tells you I was a coward. So I had more than one 8-step list because I couldn't promptly admit when I was wrong. I got into Narcotics Anonymous and something happened. Something happened to me without having something in me. So as street as I was that street in here. And one thing I know about Narcotics Anonymous, with the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous and incorporating them principles in my life, is that I get relief every day on this day, as long as I'm praying and I'm asking God to remove my shortcomings and just praying. I mean, like, just really praying, because if you lived in my skin, right, you would want your own skin back. If you lived in my skin for one day and you didn't like me, and you lived in my skin for one day, you would love me. You would say Narcotics Anonymous is probably the best program in the world that could change you like this. So your recovery don't have to be as rough as my recovery. I was too afraid to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understand Him. I had to get past the fear of not using. What was going to happen to me if I didn't use drugs? Like what? What was going to happen? I only knew a street life. And I kept working the steps. And I kept working the steps. And I kept working the steps. And when I got to my third step, I told my sponsor, I said, this is where I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it. Sponsor, I'm not going to make it. And she said, why? I said, because not only do I not believe in God, I don't believe there is a God. And she said, we're in Narcotics Anonymous. There's enough room for everybody, but let me ask you a question. Do you mind me asking you a question? In her infinite wisdom from the serenity prayer that God grants us, do you mind me asking why? And I said, because He dealt me a raw hand. And she said, who is He? Now, I don't know if you've ever been busted, like I've been busted, by the narcotics squad, and it felt the exact same way. That was a major bust. Because I knew at that time that if I didn't get past the hate, I ain't talking about anything like God, the hate in my heart for this God that allowed this little girl to be tortured tremendously. I said almost to the point of death. If I didn't get past it, I was going to have to commit suicide or slowly commit suicide and use. And this is my experience. And I continued to work the steps, and my resentment list was 62 people. By the time I got to 63, I wasn't mad no more. It's like, damn. I hated the world. So not only did I hate God, I hated the world. I hated you. I have to say something, Denise. My sponsor, 30 years, she celebrated 30 years clean, picked up, shot dope, and we just buried her. And her name is Denise P. So when Crystal said, I've asked Denise P. to read, I was like, and Cynthia said, see, Cynthia's my sponsor. Baltimore people. Stand up, Cynthia. I'm really proud of her, man. I don't have any kids, so I think they're all like I'm their mother. Even though I know they have one. Her face is red. But she's sharing too. Okay, so anyway, I don't know where I was, but what I do know is I had 60-some resentments and wasn't mad anymore. And yeah, Denise P. So anyway, it was just, and Cynthia was like, her presence is here. So what that tells you, those that thoroughly work this program will never use. You stop working this program and you're going to be a Denise P. from the Baltimore area that couldn't stop shooting dope. And we just buried her, 68 years old. Started all the Greenmount meetings, everything. The disease of addiction is wicked. It wants to get in. It's to blindside you. And I had all these resentments. And the biggest resentment I had was against my grandfather. And one of the things, because we had the old brown 4-step book. You know what I'm talking about? For the older members, like, because we didn't have no literature. We had a 4-step book. And you had to write your part in it. And when I got to my grandfather, it was like, my part was everything he told me. I was a bad kid. My parents didn't love me. I was stupid. I cried when I was beat. Everything that he told me, that I deserved all that I got, was my part in it. And something happened. I read farther down and it said, if you can't find your part in it, you might want to call your sponsor. And the 4-step is to sort, and here in our literature, it says to sort through the confusion and the contradiction of our lives. And I was confused all the time, and I was contradicted all the time with loving this new way of life and carrying around this old way of life. And I called her. Because I was taking that to my grave. There's a lot of things I was taking to my grave. And I called her. She said, baby, you didn't have any part in it. And that was the first time in all my life that somebody told me, because I never peeped a word of it except for to my mom, that somebody told me it wasn't my fault. So if I would have never, ever used the courage that God gave me from the serenity prayers that we say at the beginning and the closing of a meeting, I would have never had the courage to write this 4-step. But it didn't mean that I felt it wasn't my fault. Everything was my fault or your fault. You daggone right I yelled at you, you just yelled at me. And I still had a lot of that going on, like, hey, this is who I am. You don't like it? No loss to me. I was cold and I was calloused. And I kept working the steps. And I kept working the steps. And I kept working the steps. Round 2, got better. Round 3, got a lot better. The biggest thing that happened to me on round 1 of the steps, right? See, after coming to NA, right, we realized we are sick people. But it says the good word, after coming to NA. So when the first step where it says that we're not responsible for our disease, we're responsible for our recovery, it was almost like a piece that said, listen, okay, we'll deal with what you did. But now you're going to be responsible for your recovery. And Because at 10 years clean, and I don't know, whatever I was doing at that point, going out at night with the, let me just not say it, like Secret Squirrel. Like, did 10 years really equal recovery? Recovering from what? I wasn't recovering from anything because I couldn't get enough sex, I couldn't get enough food, I couldn't get enough of anything, not enough service work, enough money. There was never enough for me. I was desperate. I was desperate for love. I told you my soul was taken, and I kept searching for my soul and I couldn't find it until I finally was able to turn my will and my life over to the care of God as we understand Him. I was humbly asking Him to remove my shortcomings, and I didn't even know who Him was. Listen, I'm here to shatter the illusion. If nothing changes, your clean date will. Let me let you know that. I was backed into a corner I almost didn't get out of clean many times. But because our literature said we are each other's eyes and ears, I always told you what I was doing. I knew I was always in a dangerous spot in Narcotics Anonymous. I knew that when I was laying in my room and going, God, please, help me. I just want to kill myself. I hate myself. Help me. Please help me. And the disease was like, yeah, you got all these service work commitments and sponsees, and you can quote the literature. Listen, whatever's on page 165 is going to stay on 165. I was so excited I could read it, and I started memorizing stuff. By the grace of God, there I go. Until the day my heart was transformed by this program. When I say this program, I'm talking about our principles. I'm talking about practicing these principles in all our affairs. When all of that changed, and I did a 9th step with my mom, and I thought I had the advantage because my sister, right, she did a 9th step with my mom. She came out of it living, right? Like she, they were good friends though, I always thought my mother hated me. Always. Like, why didn't she just give me up for adoption? Why didn't she just this? Or if only she would have done this, if only she would have done that, my life would have been better. If she just would have, been home for me, if she would have helped me through school, I wouldn't be who I am. And I related hating God to hating my mother like it all went together. And I'm like, Mom, see, let me tell you this too. Let me tell you this. My mother went crazy. And I don't talk about it. And she wound up in Phibbs Clinic at Johnny Hopkins in Baltimore. What happened to her, she couldn't touch nothing. She couldn't hug us. And people would make fun of me and I'd tell them, I'll kill you. Because I came from a place, don't mess with my mother, my man, or my money. And my life was difficult. People used to say things to me like, there's that girl, there's that crazy mother Because if you were in Phipps Clinic, it was like the old time crazy places. And the IRS came in and took everything. My sister taught me how to rob and steal so that we could eat. And I never thought I could become a virtuous woman that God always wanted me to be. And I'm like, Mom, I owe you an amends. And it's real important to work the steps in order. And it's real important not to, make an amends for something they don't know about. They're already devastated of what their child has become. And I was scared. Because when you realize the humility that the only thing I ever deserved was a casket, and all the harm that I caused all the people, and I wanted to think I was better than. I wanted to think that, they're doing that. Until my heart was transformed to this newfound humility. I said, Mom, I owe you an amends. I said, anywhere you want to go, if you could please, let me apologize to you for what I did to you. I wouldn't go see you in the crazy place. I couldn't do it. And I shot dope harder and shot dope harder. I couldn't go up there. That was my mom that I screamed for as a kid. At the door when I was being tortured and raped. And I wanted my mommy. And now she's in a crazy place. And people were making fun of me and I was going to kill them. And I couldn't understand why my mom didn't love me. I hate crying. I feel like a punk. See what you all doing to me? Because listen, when you share the most vulnerable part of you, it works out. Why says you want to watch yourself. The disease of addiction will want you to avoid those people. When you came from where I came, you didn't cry. And my mom and I went to this bowling alley that had food that she loved. I didn't even know she even knew about this place. I didn't know nothing about her. I said, Mom, I'm so sorry. So sorry for not coming to see you. And I'm sorry that I was a terror in the neighborhood and I embarrassed you. And I'm sorry I spent a lot of time in jail and I spent time in the park and I never even told you happy birthday. And I asked her to please forgive me. Because I wasn't mad at her no more. When you work the steps in Narcotics Anonymous, there's something great that happens in here. You wind up like the 12th step talks about compassion. And if you can't find compassion, it says in our step guide, it says, call your sponsor. Let them help you with compassion. It changed my life. It changed my perspective. And she said, listen, that's nothing compared to what I did to you. She said they wanted to send you to the MIT school. You were a genius. And I couldn't stop using it. I wound up taking you somewhere that I knew something was happening. And I'm sorry that I let you starve, and I'm sorry you had to live on the street, and my God, if I could do it all over again, I promise you, I would have done it all over again, and can you let me tell you how I would have done it? So there's no more in my life about if my mom would have done this, or if my mom would have done that, or if my mom would have did this, then I wouldn't be this. I love my mother for exactly who she is. Which in turn taught me, because it was like in my heart, right, that I love you for exactly who you are. If there's anything in the world I could change about my mom, it's nothing. And if there's anything in the world I can change about you, it's nothing. Nothing. God is good to me. I don't even know why I was talking about that. It's one of them things that some things you just don't talk about. Because then you look like this. I love you guys, man. All right, next chapter. So I took my husband out the recovery house. Huh? I had to get off of that stuff, man. Woo. You would have had to take me to the crazy place. Because that shit still hurts, you know? Excuse my language. It still hurts, you know? Like it's thick scars. It's like, ah! So my husband, boy, he was hot. And he could dance, and he would go pop, pop. And I said, I gotta have him. If I don't get him, somebody else will. Oh yeah, he could, you know. He'd go, come on, Gotti. That's what he would do. And I'd be like, I'm in love. I can't believe I just did that. Yeah. And we got married. Sometimes I thought I should stick my head in a microwave. I was never one to say, don't get with the newcomer. I was like so glad I didn't have to eat those words, right? Because see, I believe with my understanding of God today and through an 11th step, it's like, I believe that God puts people in our life. We can only keep what we have by giving it away, and you never know why. Like, I knew I was coming here to share, but I really knew I was coming here to meet you. And boy, we danced. You know, like line dancing, not country, not country. You know, my husband's a brother. And I was right there with him. They go, go white girl. And I would pump it some more, right? I've been with my husband 13 years now, so I guess I can say that since I'm older, you know. And so I've had, you know, like experiences in my life that have taken my breath away. Your dad just passed away, and when my dad died, my mom and dad stayed together 47 years. And they were all full-blown addicts. So my dad got clean, then my mom got clean, then my sister got clean, then I got clean, right? Is that mine? And like we were going along with life, happy. Dad had the flu, they said, and he died in 12 weeks. And it turned our life upside down. My father was my best friend. I used with him. I didn't go to God, I went to him. So when my dad was gone, I realized the things I was going to him for were things I should have went to God for. Painful. And so life kept going on, because whether you like it or not, acceptance of life is difficult. And acceptance means without protest. So when I would say, I'm done with them, that was my protest. I was right back with them. Right? When I surrendered quietly, never seen them again. So my husband and I are going along happy. And my husband had 4 strokes in one day. It changed my life, and it changed his. I've always been a traveling addict. I never recovered in a 5-block radius. I need to let you know, if you do, there's nothing wrong with it. And I spent night after night after night in the Veterans Hospital. And they didn't know if he was going to live or if he was going to die. And I would just sit there with him. And he couldn't talk. He knew who I was. And I just stayed there. I wasn't going anywhere. And I was like sing to him. And I would sing to God. And I would be like, God, please don't take my sunshine away. Please, God. Because I believe today we can pray boldly. And it changed our life. He slept for 14 months. And I had to recover in a 1-block radius. And I used to be the person that would want to know, because I'm an NA speaker. And so I travel all over the place. And I used to want to know who's sharing here, what topic, who's sharing, blah, 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 blah. I want to hear them. They got the juice. It ain't like watching paint dry, I had all kinds of stuff the disease helped me make up. But it probably wasn't the disease. It's probably just the nature of me. Just telling you who I am, right? So my husband loves to buy CDs. Now, I got a lot more clean time. I told you I took them right out the recovery house. Because you weren't getting them. He was going to be mine. And he kept buying all these CDs and buying CDs. And I'm like, good God, we need a whole closet. And see, God sets us up. Because for 14 months, I listened to a CD every night. And God knew I was going to need them CDs. I didn't care who I listened to. I didn't care if you got to the podium through your grand sponsor because it was their sponsee and that's why you're speaking, or all the stuff you hear. I could have cared less because I needed a message of hope. I missed you. I missed the touch. I miss my people. And he'd say, go. And the one time that I went, he said, please, go to their anniversary dinner. He's celebrating a year clean. Go. They think a lot of us. And I knew my husband didn't look right. And he wound up in ICU again. And I had to call. So I never left his side after that. Never left his side. And I would pray. And I would sing. And I'd ask God to help me. And I'd ask God to send you to see us. Because I understand that when people's lives change, your lives keep going on. I wasn't mad. I just needed you. I wanted somebody to understand. I wanted somebody to hear me. I wanted somebody to know I love my husband so much I don't want nothing to happen to him. And it changed our life. And like, I nursed him. I read this book. Right? I kept looking up stuff. Like, why is he sleeping? He has brain damage. Why is he sleeping? And they said it was the best thing. This lady who was this big brain surgeon had all these strokes, and she studied that when people had strokes, the worst place they could be was in a rehab. Because they put stroke patients on medicine that makes them stay awake, not on their time, but on nurses' times. And I said, my husband's not going to a rehab. And he slept. And he slept. And he started getting a little better. And people would come over and sit there and watch a movie with him. And I started being able to speak a little bit. And they asked me to be the banquet speaker somewhere in Pennsylvania, and he went. Then they asked me to be the speaker somewhere in California. They booked my flight, and of course, we paid for my husband's. And I was coming home from my home group, and a drunk driver drove through my car. And I woke up in ICU. And I've only been out about 11 months. I was in ICU maybe a year. I was in ICU. I was in the trauma unit. And I told you when I got clean, you can cold turkey it or go to a rehab or treat, whatever, it's the detox, but I never had an opportunity. So they put me in a rehab. And I said, this is the first rehab I ever been in my life. It took away 60% of my vision. I broke almost every bone in my body. And while I was in the rehab, my husband, I had him all nursed, and he was getting everybody to buy him chicken boxes. Fried chicken. Like I had him on such a good schedule. True story. I got home, I can't see. I'm on a cane, taking an Uber to the VA. So I guess I'm sharing that to let you know that I'm grateful I'm here. And I'm grateful I can share with you. My husband is here with me. He's the black dude running around with the Civil War hat. I swear. So if you've seen him, that's him. Just say hello, Austin. So with all that said, I want to thank the Clean and Free. And it's very organized. I'm sure there's a lot of women on this committee, right? But I love men. Don't get me wrong, I love men. But us women are very multitasked, right? I'm not the type of sponsor that'll say, call me for 30 days. I'm the type of sponsor, I'll call you for 30 days. Don't I? I'll call Cynthia like, where's she at? I call all my sponsees. I believe it's an honor from God to be able to look after you. And it's a responsibility to guide you to freedom. This program has to guide you to let you know you ain't ever got to use again. Call me. Let me come get you. Let's go to Tea Love. Let's have tea. Let's do something, but don't use. And I'm not the person that believes, why would I help them if they ain't even helping themselves? Let me shatter it. I wasn't trying to help myself. If God didn't reach down and grab me and throw me in the middle of this beautiful fellowship known as Narcotics Anonymous, I would have never been here because I wasn't trying to help myself. So with that said, I just want to read one thing. Oh, let me show you this. Look, I study, I read, I write, I study. I don't tell my sponsees, oh, go get a dictionary. I know it says you need a dictionary, but get a dictionary, make copies of mine. If I can speed you up, I will. Right? I don't want them to have to do the work that's unnecessary because there's a lot of work that is necessary. So that's how I sponsor. I love my sponsees. I don't think they can do anything wrong. I just don't. I know if you're in the process of the 12 steps of Narcotics Anonymous, you're going to come out clean. So when the step guides came out, people still call them the new step guides. They're old step guides, 1998. Here was the biggest thing. And I realized I taught my sponsees wrong. So that's why I study, because it's so important that like God put you in my life, I guide you. I don't want to tell you nothing wrong. I want what's best for you. Said this. The God of our understanding. By addicts for addicts. Ain't making it up. Oh, I can make some stuff up, but I ain't making this one up. Says, before we delve into I didn't even know what delve meant. I didn't. It meant to search carefully. I didn't know that. Before we delve deeply into the process of turning our will and our lives over to the care of the God of our understanding, we should work on overcoming any negative beliefs. People will live what they believe. I believed it was okay for me to take your money to pay my rent clean, and I lived that. It was wrong. We should work on overcoming any negative beliefs or unproductive preconceptions we may have about the word God. It says, does the word God, in what are they called? Yeah, quote, yeah, whatever they're called. What are they called? Quote, whatever. I just learned something, right? Okay, does the word God or even the concept itself make me uncomfortable? But then it says this, as if you were supposed to answer yes. Because I don't know about you, but when I got diseased thinking, the word God makes me uncomfortable. So it says, what is the source of my discomfort? Because the literature says we have to get away all of our preconceptions of God. My preconception of God was, if God was so good, how could a little girl be tortured and raped and beat and tied up and gagged and like beaten when I cried, so I never cried again. I haven't cried to a long time till I got here. But you know what I'm saying? So I couldn't get past it. Until I got to the 11th step again. To seek. To learn. To find out who this God was. That allowed somebody's will to take over me. And I was able to get to the other side to be and understand I'm so blessed to be able to share with you. It was a big breakthrough for me with sponsorship. Because most people will answer, no, God's great, man. Look, I'm clean. Something happened to us. So anyway, just want to tell you, you all been great. Crystal, my road dog. I saw people with keys in their hand, right? I say, hey, I'm Karen from Baltimore. Can I catch a ride? I've done been taking the lunch from them rides. This one couple took me on the ocean in this truck. Where are they, Shelly? I said, I just want to go to the ocean. She said, I got a truck. And then you heard this man say, when did you get a truck? Right? And she skipped over that with a minimum of concern and said, let's take her to the ocean. I begged them to take me home. Like, who drives on and into the ocean? It's like, who lives here without an umbrella? You know what I mean? So it's like, then I got my peanut squad over here. Is it his peanut squad gallery? And I had this lady chase me in the bathroom. Miss Karen. It's a true story. Are you in here? And I'm like, peeing. And I'm like, yes. You don't recognize voices. You don't know nobody. And she said, Verna Lisa wants to talk to you. And I'm like, Verna Lisa? Like, I don't even know Verna Lisa. And I'm like, okay. And I come out, and I had met these ladies earlier when I first came over here on Thursday or whatever day it was. We'd really like to take you and your husband to breakfast. How do you say no to that? Now, I done told them all about themselves, about the 12 steps, and if you don't work steps, you're going to use, and, I done did all that, the things you would say to somebody that would never talk to you again, right? Hey, listen, they still picked us up. We went to breakfast this morning. So, the hospitality is great here. In Baltimore, let us know you're coming. Let us know you're coming. My home group is at The Wire. You all seen that movie, The Wire? Yes, no, maybe. That's my home group. Rats chase us. Guns shoot at us. True story. One ran across my foot. They're big as kittens. Breaks the racial barrier. It's very segregated. African American people have never seen or been this close to a white person. Yeah. They won't let you hug them. When I first met my 35 nieces and nephews, they kept staring at me. And they kept saying dog, but really they were saying doll, playing with my hair. So it's a whole nother culture. So I stay in that group because I believe God has had me there 13 years at that group. I just like to go where God wants me to go. And He speaks through you. So I love you. Listen to me. I love you. If there's anything that we can do for you, anything, you let us to help you in your recovery, because we're here for you. I'm an addict. My name's Karen.